Michelle Hendrix is
Are we
back.
talking?
Yeah, I think I'm going to start it off. Michelle Hendrix is back. We've got her. I looked at it. It's been just a little over a year since you were here last. I want to say you were here in like late January, early February.
Yep. I bet it was February.
Okay. And so we've got you back now. Things have changed market-wise. Things have changed with your business slightly, nothing crazy. But you and I have had a lot of conversations about things that I'm like, we need to get this on the podcast because people need to know what Michelle Hendrix is up to because you genuinely were one of my favorite guests.
Oh, thank you.
So I've got lots to cover, but before I start talking too much, is there anything specific that you have going on right now that you feel is business-wise that you feel is worth telling the world? Any events, anything along those lines?
Sure. I mean, well, first of all, fun fact, I went from that last podcast to a listing photo shoot.
Okay.
And then I sold that house 14 days later or whatever. And then we sold it again in December. So it's the first time that I've ever sold. I've sold the same house a bunch of times.
Sold it twice
But
in
I
1
sold
year.
it twice in 1 year.
There you go.
So that happened. It was, my lucky corduroy jacket and podcast mix or something. But what do I have going on? We just have a lot in the works because of the organization structure that we have at EXP. And my colleague Diller Schwartz and I are doing as much as we can to enhance the chances ultimately for the success of the agents.
Shout out to Diller.
Yes. We'll come on here together and talk more
Yeah.
about when things start to take shape. It just has become really important to provide as many opportunities as we can for these agents that are hungry for someone to tell them what to do. Because agents just get thrown stuff at them.
Right.
They get spammed on their phone. They're scrolling through thinking they have to do everything they see online. They get a gazillion emails.
Yeah.
Everyone wants them to go to this class or that class. So we really aim to streamline that for them and help them see through the fog. And it's a really cool way. I mean, Diller has a big team. I don't. But it's a really cool way for me to feel like I've got a team.
Sure.
I have an organization. It's different. Let's just give them as much value as possible as often as you can. So we're formatting events around that. And as far as client events and things like that, because of the shift in the market, I haven't done them as often. So we're gearing up for something really special, but it's just taking shape now. So I don't want to give anything away.
Well, the one thing that you are doing that we can talk a little bit about, or at least you're a part of, is the Southie.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, the Southie.
Which I've been trying to selfishly piggyback off of. I'm like the coffee buyer.
Yeah.
Right? So I try to show up and purchase coffee. Sometimes people get there before I can get their coffee for them. But it's been fun. And so why don't you tell me a little bit about what the Southie is and what you're trying to accomplish with it?
Well, the Southie, I love it. I love it so much. Emily, Bibby, and I were at a Real Producers event, and I had this really complicated listing coming up in Garrison Park, South Austin. And it was going to be a $1.3 million listing around a bunch of $800,000 houses, top of the market right there, around 800. And so I was just trying to figure out how, and it was also mid-November. So I was just, trying to figure out what do we do that's really special and different. We have to get as much exposure as possible. And it has to be interesting. And you just can't sell a house right now for top dollar unless you're confident that you're getting the most people through the door. Otherwise, the sellers are like, am I leaving money on the table? Did we do this all wrong? So I was talking to Emily. I said, I've been wanting to do a better property tour. There's a ton out there. Talk about noise that some of the less established agents are trying to figure out. There's probably 5 South Austin tours. I've been to some of them very infrequently. And, no offense to those tours or formats. I just didn't bring a lot of value back to my clients. And so I knew we had to do something bigger, better, different. And I'm very passionate about the area south of 290 mean, I love working south of the river. I'm just a south side gal. But I wanted to have a tour that really highlighted all of the incredible homes that are in 78745 and 78748 in particular. So we're east of 35, south of 290, and we try to stay, we're west of 35.
Yeah.
And then east of Mopac, but we will cross over into, there's a couple really cool neighborhoods if need be. However, the point was there's a lot of really cool houses, one of them being Stanley Avenue for $1.3 million in the $800,000 neighborhood. So the aha was, let's get this thing going so we can showcase houses like this that need extra exposure because they're not getting it from the other property tours. And we want to do it pre-market whenever we can.
Sure.
Because right now, visibility ahead of the MLS launch is absolutely critical. Because that's where you can test your pricing and your presentation, just the whole package. But in this case, we got our very first tour. We had 62 RSVPs. I think we probably had around that many at the first tour. It was very well attended.
I'd say there's always 20 to 25 people bare minimum.
Yeah. So we've had, I guess, 3 since. The submissions have been amazing. The houses are all really interesting. And they're all sorts of, there's, bungalows, new construction. It doesn't matter what price it is.
Right.
We just want it to be interesting and have that South Austin vibe that we all love so much. And it's just been really beneficial. I had 40 agents through the door at that Stanley listing. We did actually put that on MLS beforehand. But on the day after it was live in MLS, we had 40 agents through. Each of them used the QR code to give very specific feedback to my sellers. And it was the most impactful marketing effort I've ever had on one property.
I love that.
They were very, very impressed. They're looking at the ring cam. They saw all those people coming through, and we were really proud of it. And I'm so glad that I aligned with Emily because, it's broker agnostic. And it's just been really fun working on it and getting to know her. And Hannah, my operations gal,
I like the broker agnostic. I don't even know. What brokerage is she with?
Compass.
Okay.
My former home.
Emily Bibby. I'm always running into her from time to time.
Yeah, she's a hoot. And I just knew that she, without knowing her well, I knew that we had the same, passion for this side of 290. And it just felt perfect.
Well, I selfishly own multiple properties in the exact area that you made mention of, and so I am also
a Southie.
Yeah.
We welcome you into our tribe.
Thank you. What do you think that you're doing differently on your property tours that other agents aren't that is generating the, I guess, exposure that you're getting for your sellers?
Well, first of all, shout out to the Waller House tour on the east side because really they're the trailblazers. And when I was thinking about what can we do differently, I thought to myself, why don't we have an agent-led something better like they do? Because, you see them on social media. They're well-attended. The houses are great. People are posting it.
Yeah, when I do them, no one shows up.
Yeah, see, we don't go to the lender tours anymore or the title company ones. So, just save your effort.
Yeah, lenders and title companies are ew.
But the agents have taken over, so which I think is mission critical and most impactful.
Sure.
So, what are we doing different? Is that what you asked me?
Yeah, I mean, you made mention that you felt like you got a ton of exposure. I mean, was that just luck? Was that because y'all did something differently, or is it because it's agent led? Maybe that's the answer.
Yeah. So, well, first of all, we made it we branded it.
Okay.
So it's its own thing. It's not as trying to get in a room with someone to sell them a product or anything. It's agent-led, agent-curated, very thoughtfully curated, client-focused value that we can execute on. So Hannah branded it. We made sure we got it as much exposure as we could. I mean, Instagram probably for the most part.
Sure.
And we just started that RSVP list. So now anyone who's RSVP'd is going to get the information. And oftentimes the list of homes on that tour, none of them are going to be on the MLS yet.
Because they're off market at the
Yeah,
time. Got
yeah.
it.
And so I think another reason they're well attended is because on the buy side, I want to be the hero that brings my client the off market listing. We're doing a deal right now with one that was that's off market and will probably stay that way. No one's ever going to know that gorgeous house that
Yeah.
our client got, was ever even available. So, that is a really good feeling.
There's
So when
value there.
So you have to be tapped into those networks. So when we posted the success of the Southie, immediately agents from other areas that are really strong producers, top producers in their areas or farms, they were like, "Oh my God, we got to do it too!" And it just grew from there. And now, and it grew quickly. So it was like everyone just got it in order, and we now have access to those, monthly
Right.
off-market gems that we're not going to see, that may not make it. I mean, I would say, I told a client yesterday, 50% of my deals are off-market.
Okay.
And I had clients up north I was showing, I would say 90% of the homes they were looking at for the most part of their search were all off-market.
Okay.
So when you talk about value, like what
Right.
value is the agent bringing if we can't supply the client with something that they can't find themselves?
Right.
I mean, there's a lot that happens after that, but
Of course.
so we're just really proud of it. I'm so glad that it turned into something that's so beneficial to the agent community far and wide, because each tour is led by someone who is an absolute specialist in that area. So not only will people have access to these really cool, exciting homes that are most likely off market, the agents, like our younger agents in our organization, we can say, don't be shy. Like, these are the people selling the most property in these areas. Call them, ask them if they have anything when you're looking.
Right.
Like, I think I've said this a million times. I think Austin is one of the most collaborative cities as far as agents. Not that I'm experiencing lots of cities, but you just don't. Actually, Emily said, because she travels around to all sorts of MLSs, she said that she verified that
I would
the
say
Austin-
South Austin specifically is a lot cooler
I mean, we do love
when
her.
it comes to the agents. So just to really hammer this home, so if you are, kind of like obviously an agent who has a property here in this area and, specifically is either not on the market just yet or is an off-market property, getting in touch with the Southie would probably benefit, those sellers quite a bit.
It's Southie.at. Is it the Southie?
I think it's the Southie.
I should
We'll
know
make
those.
sure that we have all the links and everything in the video.
I think it's the Southie.atx, but yeah, I mean, people need to know that that's where,
But I like what you said on the buy side, because I think a lot of times agents see these things, and to your point, especially newer agents, they're like, how does this benefit me? I don't have a listing in this area, right? And I do think I see newer agents that, they utilize it as an opportunity to view other properties and kind of get information and really get their feet wet. And that's there's value there. But the clients that have buyers, the fact that a lot of these are currently listed off market, I think is what makes it to where buyers agents that sometimes are like, I don't need to be a part of this, like should maybe consider giving it another look if they have buyers that are buying in those specific areas, right?
absolutely. I mean, if at least once a month you're showing your client a list of homes that they don't have access to,
Right.
I mean, they shouldn't ever leave unless
Sure.
something bigger is at play that they don't
Right.
agree with. But that's incredibly valuable. And I would say that as someone that's been around for a while, I was terrible about going out and doing boots on the ground market research because I never, ever had time. So now the other thing that all these property tours has done is it's given people, I mean, I've got it blocked every tour each
Right.
month on my calendar. And that's the market research, that especially for the younger agents, if they don't know the area, you need to know at least the urban core at large. And this gives them a day and a time to go look at these houses, know these neighborhoods, talk with the people that are doing the market share of business up there, and maybe find something really special for their client. I mean, if they're using that also for social media, I think it's going to build credibility because it doesn't matter if you have a client or not.
Right. That's a
Show
good
them that
point.
you're out, touring these homes. The most successful real estate pages or what do you call them? Instagram profile. The
Handles,
most
yeah.
the most successful Instagram profiles are the ones that are out showing
Yeah, they're
the
generating
world
content.
these beautiful homes, and the ones that aren't available online and syndicated are the ones that draw the most attention. You know who you should have on here sometime? Oh gosh, I'm gonna forget her name. I'm forgetting. I think it's Sophia, but we'll come back to that.
Okay. She does
but-
a lot of stuff with social media and everything.
Yeah,
along
no.
those lines.
So who you should have on here is Charming Austin.
Okay.
Her name is Stella.
Okay.
And she started something. She's probably got 43,000 followers or more, and it's building into this business. I had this really fun lunch with her and talked about how she's scaling, and she just loved beautiful homes. And I think it started during the pandemic. Her
Okay.
origin story is really sweet and simple and built around her love of gorgeous homes
Sure.
while she was out on walks. And Charming Austin was like a juggernaut. I mean, people pay a fair fee to have their home listed on there. And now
Right.
I'm seeing homes from other markets. But she would be an interesting conversation because
I will look
she
into
sees
that.
it all, right?
Yeah.
I mean, she's getting everyone's intake forms. So
Well, I think one of the points that you made too that's worth coming back to is even with AI and everything being the way that it is, you have, potential buyers that are looking at homes through the MLS or maybe even just, again, I know the off-market part, it's more difficult to see these properties, but I've seen some virtual staging and I've seen like photos that look really, really good. And unfortunately, sometimes when you're doing market research as a real estate agent, if you're just going on and looking at comparable sales, you may not be getting the full picture because you're not actually walking into these properties. So yeah, I think doing these, these property tours in real life, what a weird concept, right? instead of digitally.
Well, it's making it easy. It's making it accessible because I think one of the reasons people don't go out and preview more. I mean, there are people that are really good at that. It wasn't my strong suit. It was like, when am I going to fit this in? Oh, it's really easy to move it to the side when something else comes up. And now I'm going to just, some of them are occupied.
Yeah. that's
So are
true.
you going to disturb the seller so you could go and tour this
Do
home?
market research, right?
I mean, a preview is a preview, and sometimes you have clients and sometimes you don't. But to put that all together yourself is kind of a pain in the ass. So now these property tours give you, for every market area, one day a month where you can go see all of these great houses with all these wonderful, enthusiastic agents, because the agents that are there because they're really serious
Sure.
about their work and their listings, and showing up for each other with feedback is the best way we can support one another.
I agree. Well, and it's great ammunition when you maybe have a seller that is being a little unrealistic about what they think their house is worth. And I personally love it just because there, to me, feels like there's like the camaraderie before you guys go. I always tell my wife when I leave, I'm like, I'm going to go buy the kids coffee before they go to school. Because I don't want to be there for the full tour. I mean, I obviously have other things going on, but then at the same token, like I just feel like it's time for me to leave. You know, we all know the dynamic of lender and real estate agents. So it's like, hey, I'm here. Here's your coffee. Like, don't forget my face. I'll stalk you later, and then I go.
Yeah.
But that like 30 minutes when everybody's kind of announcing their property and everything along those lines, and it's early in the morning, and most agents, I feel like that's the earliest they've gotten up all month.
But that's why it's not too early.
It's at 9 a.m.
Yeah,
Or
well,
9:30. Sorry, 9:30.
Well, the 04, which is run by Amy Sparks, Mary Daniels, and Austin Stoll, theirs starts in the middle of the day and ends
Gotcha.
in the afternoon with a little happy hour.
I see.
But that's the vibe
Sure.
in 04, right?
Yeah,
and there's
that's true.
plenty of options.
Right on.
So theirs is really great too. We should post all the property tours.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I can definitely do that. I'll put in links to, how to get there in terms of Instagram and everything. We can even cut clips and stuff. I'll make it happen.
Oh, I know.
That's what we
There
do.
was something else that was right on the tip of my tongue about that. Oh, you said, I said feedback, and it made me think of this Jared James video I just saw, which isn't new news because we all know there was some sort of litigation around a deal that did or did not get done. I don't remember exactly contextually, and it all came down to feedback. I think it was like the seller the buyers gave bad feedback. The agent delivered unsavory feedback. I think this is how it went. And then they didn't buy it. And then they came
Forget
back.
what it was. I know what you're talking about, though.
I think I probably am just not telling this right, but this could happen. This could be a scenario.
Sure.
The buyers came back and they wanted it, but the sellers had their feedback. They're like, oh, these are the people that said our house stunk or was weird or whatever negative thing they said about it.
Right.
And they're like, we don't like them.
Right. We don't want to accept the offer.
We'll have to figure out what the real story was, but it was something like that. And now people are like, so Jared James was like, feedback is going away. It will go away. But that's different kind of
buyer
feedback. That's
not
buyer
agent
feedback. Right.
Right.
So if you can bring this is the best kind of feedback.
I agree.
Because my clients all work in a range, and on the front end, we're going to put the listing out there at the higher end of what we think the market will bear, or maybe even just a little bit more, because some folks still, even in a market that's shifting as quickly as this one is, will pay a premium for something that they love to keep it from the general public.
Right.
And that's just the best way to test your pricing too. It's like test driving your whole strategy in one day with 25, 30 professionals that have the most important feedback that you could get to your seller.
Yeah. Well, and that's a nice segue into the other piece of just another topic that I wanted to cover, because I'm actively working on putting together a real estate panel, because one of the things that I am always doing is when I talk to agents, I'm always like, what are your pain points, right? So, like, what is it? Because as a lender...
Don't get me started.
Yeah. Well, as a lender, it's like...
Well, we're having these conversations so
Yeah.
much lately.
I mean, I do everything I can as a lender to not just do my job. I don't like coming to real estate agents and saying, like, let me tell you about all these products and let me tell you how long I've been in the business and all those kind of things. It's like, look, you should just assume that, like, everything on the lending side is going to go smooth. I want to figure out...
With you. Like,
Yeah.
you can't... People shouldn't assume that everything on the
Right.
lending side is going to go smooth.
Well, anyone who's, like, actively... In my opinion, I've yet to find lenders... Now, don't get me wrong. I do sometimes see lending companies that are more like you've got your biz dev reps that are out there that don't do loans, and sometimes those can go sideways.
Overpromise.
Yeah, but I very rarely see a lender who is actively out meeting agents that is also a lender, him or herself, that sucks at their job. It's usually not something I see. But either way, the point I'm trying to make is that I try to do things that are in addition to the lending, right? So when I've been asking agents, like, what are your pain points lately? What is it that you're experiencing? I have been told, and one of the lines I want to use specifically was by Matt Kemp's, actually, and he said, I think that this spring market, whatever you want to call it, because you've got some agents that are being like, spring market's dead, it's never going to happen. You got a lot of naysayers out there that are saying, in this particular market right now, the delta or the gap between buyers that are being told, whether it's by the media, by their agents, by the AI, that it's a buyer's market, and sellers that are seeing activity pick up, and they're seeing that, there's just more people that are viewing, more people that are just interested in buying. The gap between the, like, reality of what the buyer thinks the market is and the seller thinks is as wide as it's been in, like, over a decade.
Oh, yeah.
And so how do we, as real estate professionals, try to educate buyers and sellers alike when what we used to be up against was we were always up against, the father-in-law that bought a home like 50, there's the cliche jokes, right? Or it's like
the uncle who's a contractor 15 years
right.
ago.
Well, now we're up against the artificial intelligence that is going to placate to you and whatever your bias is. Because I've even tested this. If I start asking ChatGPT, for example, enough questions that are pretty much the same but in different ways, I can eventually get an answer out. Like if I were to say, like, tell me this is a seller's market right now, I promise if I push, I call it a her, if I push her, I can eventually get her to tell me that this is a seller's market in some form or fashion and just justify my bias. So this is the new father-in-law is what I'm saying.
Yeah, and strangely enough, I haven't had to deal with a lot of people that were, that are like, well, I chat GPT'd it. I heard about someone who
Oh, they don't want to tell you.
but I heard about someone who got all the way to the closing table. Who was this? A colleague of mine, and they got all the way to the closing table. I want to say it was like a $3 million deal.
Oh, wow.
Gosh, who was this? We'll post this and someone will be like, that was me. And the seller right before closing, the seller chat GPT'd if they were getting fair market value for their home.
No.
And the buyer did the same thing. And so ChatGPT told the seller, no, according to these, it'll pull like the most random things out of the sky.
Well, it goes off your bias, right? And it figures if you're asking, you feel like you're
I mean,
screwed.
it's just, I don't care how smart it is. It doesn't know the comps.
I agree.
This is just as bad as an AVM.
Mm-hmm. Probably worse.
Yeah, because it gives it a little personality spin.
Well, it's less updated.
Yeah, but it's so the buyer and the seller both did it right before the closing table, and they each thought they were getting a bad deal. And I think that deal fell apart. I can't remember. I think it was Jacqueline Foreman. Oh my God, I gotta find out.
Yeah,
I think it was the Foremans.
All due to AI.
But there was something else I was to say on that. It's just never gonna know. I think I've said this since the beginning. ChatGPT is never gonna know if the house stinks.
Sure, that like physically, like
Right.
smells.
Yeah,
like,
it's not going to
right.
know. It's not going to take into account the cast iron,
Right.
that's likely in the slab. I don't think it can get into the MLS and read the disclosures and scrutinize any other information that's been
Not
put
in
out
Texas. I mean,
out front.
Texas is a non-disclosure state.
Yeah, it can't get in there and see those things. So it's just not ever going to replace us. But I agree entirely with every person that says if we aren't adopting it and leveraging it and speeding up with it, then we're going to get left behind.
Yeah.
So, which is one of the things that I'm proudest of at EXP because, I mean, at least one Friday a month, we have 2 meetings each week, but the Fridays are for really valuable content to enhance our business. And there is so much AI. Ben Laub in Florida on Renee Funk's team, he comes on there and blows my mind every time. Like, sometimes I have to log off.
What market is Renee Funk in? Why do I feel
She's
like I know
in
that?
Florida,
Okay.
the one near Disneyland.
Yes. I've been on a couple Dietz calls and,
Oh, she's wonderful. But sometimes I actually do have to log off because it just became too much and I know I can come back to it. Mm-hmm. But you can take these little nuggets that you learn because people don't know that you need to use other ChatGPT sort of for like firming up your argument once you've fed it all the data that you've gone out and gotten.
Yeah.
I mean, we know now that Manus and Perplexity and these other platforms should be leveraged for the market research to supplement our knowledge and our scrutiny of the market research. Then you go and get even more and then put it all together with your thoughts in response to everything that you've gathered, because what it can do is it can gather more quickly.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I think in a lot of cases, it can help apply, international and global economics as far as, market impact. And are we going to have a short spring, which I'm worried that we're going to have a short spring again, but fingers crossed. But yeah, that's my take on
Well, and I think
AI.
one of the things that nobody talks about is that, I was just telling this story yesterday. I remember sitting at closing tables with people that were closing with interest rates in the mid-2s, and they were feeling like they overpaid. And then I do annual reviews for everybody every single year where I reach out and we talk about their insurance. We make sure that they're homesteaded. We talk about contesting value if we can. There's just a lot of things. And so I connect with these clients every year. And obviously the clients that purchased in like 2019, 2020, I mean, they're like beating their chest at how happy they are that they've got this super low interest rate. They've accumulated a boatload of equity. But I can remember being at those closings and having people, you know, just the underlying tone of like not being excited about their purchase.
Yeah, because they've just been beaten up repeatedly.
And so the point I'm trying to make is that I don't think that we talk enough about the fact that the true value, or better yet, not value, the true testament to whether or not you got a good deal really only takes place when you sell that home. Because it doesn't really matter what you purchased that property for. If you're trying, if by deal you mean like you're going to walk away with a profit, nobody has a good enough crystal ball, not even ChatGPT, to tell you what your house is going to be worth when you sell it. And then furthermore, the biggest obstacle I run into as a lender is we always ask people, like, how long do you anticipate you're going to own this home? For some people, that's an impossible question to answer. Mm-hmm. And so if you can't give that variable, because I've had a lot of agents on here and I typically follow their lead, like, I think it's impossible to really do well on a property if you're going to own it for less than 3 years. And some would even say 5 years. So anybody who's purchasing a property that's not an investment that they're truly trying to flip or whatever, I think if you have aspirations to sell that home in like 24 to 36 months, maybe you shouldn't even be considered buying. Mm-hmm. And if you're not, and you're going to wait 5, 7, 10 years, well, we won't necessarily know what kind of deal you really got. Mm-hmm. Because, again, going back to my 2019 and 2020 clients, again, I can remember a few of them specifically that were just like so pissed. And now
they had no idea what was coming down the pipe.
Well, and now they, you know, of course it's all their idea, but they'll tell you about their 2.5% interest rate and all their equity, and they like beat their chest like they're super smart and I just bought at such a great time. But like, you know, I'm one of those guys that can keep quiet. Like, I remember when you were being a total dick at closing about it, you know?
Yeah. Well, they do say you make your money when you buy, and I feel bad for the people that doesn't really apply to from, you know, 2021 and 2022. But, you know, hopefully the conversations that were taking place when that was all going down was these are
but it could.
artificially inflated values. But, I mean, from 2019 to 2022, some people appreciated by 60%.
Right.
And so when I look at any individual property, what happens most of the time, to generalize it to some degree, is I'm backing off 30%.
Okay.
And when I was pricing that one deal, that really interesting Garrison Park home, I was able to go back to when did they buy it? 2014. No, it doesn't matter. I was able to go back to when they bought it, using the systems that we employ, and I took it from where they bought it at, and I just went through the year's averages, and I applied it, and I got to 2025, and it made perfect sense.
Right.
Because they bought it in a rational market, and then all we had to do was add the cost of the improvements, or the value of the improvements rather, and they were sellers that were rational, and they didn't have this idea that was part of that gap between the buyer and seller, because they listened, and strategically we got it done in 12 days.
Well, and that is what this panel is going to be about. I've already asked you to be a part of it, and Diller as well, and I've gotten green lights from both of you. I contacted most of the agents that you made mention of, and of course, like any lender, none of them have returned my calls or my text messages.
I'll call them.
But we'll work on that. I did connect with Capital Title. Diller had suggested, it turns out it is a title company I do a lot of business with, which is like Julie Kuntz, who's the business developer rep, and then their escrow agent. So they've told me that they are on board, and then I am looking. I have a few prospects, but I wanted to connect with the agents more than anything, and we can talk about this off the podcast, but I'm looking for an inspector because I know I've already told you this, but I wanted to get it on the record just in case we can get some of this over to any other agents that might be interested in doing this. I'm looking for, kind of an agent to talk about the buy side, to cover some of the things that This is why I want the inspector as well, because as a lender, I'm at about a 20% fallout right now on contracts that go under, or deals that go under contract that fall out during option. And I would say about 95% of the reason that those fall out is due to the inspection, right? And we've talked a little bit about this, and I don't want to steal anyone's thunder. I want this to be the presentation, but setting realistic expectations about inspections, and hypothetically, if we're writing an offer based on a few things that a buyer is already having concerns about, then we either need to price that into our offer or we need to just move on. And I'm seeing a lot of people that are getting under contract, getting the inspection, and using it as ammunition.
Because the agent's so excited to go under contract, they don't value the risk mitigation, and they
You
just
said
hope
it,
that
not
it
me.
sticks.
Broke agents, right? So
Well, and there's a lot of them.
well, don't talk too much about it, because we want to get this on the panel.
Yeah.
We want to bring the value, but this is, so again, going back to, I am hearing agents that are saying, number one, the fallout on the buy side, and I want to have a buy side agent talk about how he or she mitigates that. The listing side, of course, as far as like the pricing is concerned, where you're dealing with somebody who's listing a home, and maybe an agent comes in and says, based on the comparable sales today, I think pricing this home at $500,000 would be best practices, and the seller goes, great, let's list it at $550 and see what happens, right?
Yeah, no. Having that exact conversation right now.
Right. Well, and again, I've heard agents say, like, do I just list it at what they say and then we come down?
No,
or
you
do
walk
I walk
away.
Right. Well,
You
and
walk
so
away.
again, don't steal it. We're gonna, and we want to talk
You
about
run
we wanna
for the
talk about
hills.
how you're doing that. I want to talk about the inspector to give an idea of exactly what they're doing as far as putting these inspections together. What means what? I've been telling this story like crazy. I had a deal fall apart with a transaction where the inspector notated that there was that the sellers spent extra money on a roofing system with architectural shingles, and like it was one of the best roofs that he had ever seen, and there was absolutely nothing wrong with it, but the age of the roof suggested that it may need to be replaced in the next 5 to 7 years. Again, nothing wrong with this roof. And the buyers said, well, then we want a brand new roof or we're going to walk. And they did.
Bye.
Right.
Bye.
But
they weren't well prepared.
I would agree. And then lastly, what I want to do, and I don't know who this person is, and we can talk about it again, because that's, we've got the buy side, the list side, the inspector, and then I want to get one more, which in my mind, I'm looking for somebody that is an agent that would be considered to be very, very sales driven. And I want him or her to talk about how he or she identifies tire kickers and time wasters way before even getting to the point of getting under contract or even showing a home or anything along those lines, and what he or she does to mitigate wasting time. I think that would be a good kind of, what am I trying to say, topic to touch on.
Yeah.
And so getting agents in being like, hey, you know what? These are my problems. I do have these problems. What are some of the top agents in my market doing? And I feel like, again, because those are the pain points that I am being told about when I ask agents what seems to be, your issues. Like we had a transaction that fell apart yesterday because
RIP.
the buyer, the home appraised at value.
And they didn't like that?
No. That house should have appraised, the list price
Higher.
was $460. We got under contract for $440. And this buyer, although we set realistic expectations, wanted this home to appraise for $460,000. Although we were under contract for $440.
Who cares?
And so I do want to get this on the record. One of the things that I think, and even agents don't have an answer for this, and I would really, now I'm part of the panel, because this is something I don't hear agents say enough, and I know this as a lender because we're the ones that order the appraisal and all that. When we talk about comparable sales, when an appraiser goes out to appraise a property, the main objective is to make sure that you, the buyer, are not overpaying for the property, because at the end of the day, most people are putting down, 3, 5, 10, sometimes 20%.
Right.
So
Or
if
more
you're-
so that the lender's not overpaying for the
exactly.
property, right? 'Cause
So
they're
if you're only putting down 20% and we're putting down 80, who's really buying this place, me or you? Right?
lender.
Correct. So we want to make sure that we, the buyer and the lender, are not overpaying for the property. Now, when we have an appraiser appraise a property, I've been told this directly by appraisers. The true value of something is only what someone is willing to pay. And that is why we call them comparable sales. So if a property is listed at $460,000 and it goes under contract for $440,000, that property is now only worth $440,000 because that is what someone was willing to pay for it. It doesn't. You could jokingly say, like, you've now successfully, like, screwed over all your neighbors with their comps because you just got this property for $440. So that means that every comparable sale within proximity is now $440. Like, that's the new comparable sale. And people, like, and especially when someone's buying a property that I know they're going to live in, like, are you going to turn around and relist this property the next day? No. So what are we
I've
talking
never
about?
heard of someone expecting built-in equity
This is the second
to the
time
degree
this year it
that
has
they
happened.
decided to walk. That's really
and
exceptional.
left their earnest money on the table. This is the second one this year. This one's going to cost my clients $7,000.
I think that there's a lot of excellent agents out there on the list and the buy side. I could be better on the buy side. I was just talking to Diller about this. I really want to sharpen up some of our tools.
Well, that's big of you to admit.
We always have to be evolving.
Sure.
Well, and I'm 90% listings. I'm very, very comfortable in that space. And but I could probably improve there as well. Something always comes up. But this, just as there are good agents out there, I think there's a small percentage of us that do most of the business. In fact, I know it, and everybody has their numbers up for what percentage they rank or whatever. But there are a lot of agents that are just purely negligent. And I'm proud to say that out loud, but I will say that there are fewer than there were when everything was really easy.
That was what I was going to ask you.
And I wish I could remember this girl's name because I would say it out loud.
Okay.
But I don't because I think it, like, my trauma response was to
Just block
forget
it out.
about it. But she got I helped her walk this buyer through the things that were conditions of this property that we took into consideration
Yeah.
when we priced it.
Right.
And then this beautiful home, best single-story floor plan, arguably, in Castlewood Forest, was priced really, really well. We got multiple offers. The agent knew her. I don't know how much newer, but she was green. And I said, essentially we write something up that says, make
Well,
sure that
hopefully
you're,
she's no longer in the business. Or maybe she's learned something.
who knows? I should remember her name so I can flag it. But the list of repair requests we got, and then we did get into multiple offers, and the list of repair requests that we got included, and the things that we weren't going to replace that we did disclose because my listings are teed up with lots of diligence, and I think a seller needs to know what's inside their slab and how their house is performing so things don't fall out, and I think that's why I have a really low fallout rate on the list side. And we disclosed cast iron in the slab because everyone has it. We knew that there was a small little run that had an issue. This is how much it cost. Probably willing to pay for that repair because there is a deficiency in this tiny little bit, but the rest of it is cast iron. It's performing great, and this roof is on its last leg.
Yeah.
And we took it into consideration when pricing. Got the home inspection. She swore up and down. We had multiple offers, so we went with the cash offer where we had done all the explaining and given them all the due diligence, and this is in my neighborhood. It's you consider it my farm or whatever.
Yeah.
Then 35 deals in the neighborhood. And they come back from their home inspection and ask for like they list off like $120,000 worth of things that needed to be repaired as a health and safety hazard. It was a $689,000 contract. One of them was replacing the sewer line. I forget what price she put on that, but my favorite was replacing the roof, and the cost that they associated that with was $50,000.
Oh, wow.
So this agent wrote up a repair request where this is an email actually, I
Probably
say,
just put it in ChatGPT. Or no, this is
well, I
before.
say, I don't know. No, it definitely is a ChatGPT time, but
Okay.
I don't think ChatGPT would ever spit out something so ridiculous. I'm going to print the email out. I'm going to put it up in my office because it's the silliest email I've ever gotten in my career. And not only was the backup buyer already gone, they had found something they liked on a different street. We're left trying to rationalize with irrational people who haven't been.
Right.
And maybe this is a story for the panel, but I just had to say, if a agent doesn't understand what's what and they can't convey it to their buyer, and something is teed up really well and really transparent by the list side, then they should get out of the business.
Yeah.
But to say that a roof on a 2,000, 2,500 square foot house, single
50
story, is 50 grand, I said, is there gold flecks in it?
Right.
Like, what is this magical roof?
Yeah.
And the deal fell apart. And you know what happened after that subsequently? We had really busy open houses. The house was priced and positioned really well. I thought we were doing a great job. And when another offer didn't come in, the seller said, I think we're going to move on.
Yeah.
And that was a really tough blow because I don't, like I said, my fallout rate is practically null, except for that one. And that one stung so badly because it was a past client. We did everything right, everything, like to the T. And then this agent came in with, without any real knowledge about how to hold a deal together or set expectations, and sent over an ask that was completely insane.
Well, and that's why I'm really looking for this, fourth person, if you will, on just the being like kind of heavy sales driven thing, because as much as we can say, yes, it's definitely agents that are having a difficult time holding the deal together on the buy side and not, keeping their client under control. There's more of them out there, not the agents though. I'm saying the buyers. So
yeah, because it's really, really confusing. And that's why we all need better, stronger presentations and a better presence that will give people.
So better like buyers, buyer presentations and things like that. Cause I mean, some of the
Just
things,
for starters, lay some groundwork.
I mean, and here's what's interesting is like, in 2020, for example, when I would talk to agents and be like, what's your pain point? I would have agents literally just do the like gasp and be like, I don't even want to deal with buyers, right? I only want to do listings. I am so sick of buyers. And I would always think I've been doing this long enough, like this will turn. And so now it's all about, I don't want any listings. I just
They're
want
very hard.
buyers.
They can be difficult.
But it's funny because even people with buyers, because in 2020, when you had the listing, like, and maybe you can speak to this because I know you've made mention, you're pretty much like 90% listing. Like, how difficult were sellers during that timeline that you only wanted listings type of deal? I mean, were the because I guess what I'm getting at, and this is what I'm asking you. When agents were saying, I only want sellers, because of course it was a seller's market, I did not hear as many complaints about sellers as I hear about agents now saying, man, I just need some buyers, but then also being like, buyers are nuts. Mm-hmm. So.
Well, the most important thing is that, I think that sellers were, I don't know, I guess my sellers were rational because people that are like you. Mm-hmm. That's, my ninja thing that I always say. So I'm comfortable saying no and walking away.
Yeah.
I'm going to say no to one tomorrow.
I was just going to ask how many, and I know it's not easy to quantify, but percentage-wise, I mean, how often do you feel like you say no?
Rarely, because I am fortunate enough to be working with people by way of referral, mostly, or they've found me because the algorithm thought we would get along.
Okay.
And I've just been, pinch myself. We've had just really rational sellers, and I am really, really,
You just
really
have the best luck.
Yeah, like at least at work. I am super confident at the table, and I have said this to my colleagues. It's no, so, 2020, 2021 aside, here and now, it's never been more important to be really firm.
Okay.
And if the sellers don't respond to a level of confidence that is tough love and firm and willing to walk away,
Sure.
and we say that out loud.
Yeah.
One of three things is going to happen here today. We're going to get along. You're going to hire me. You're going to decide not to for one reason or the other, or I may turn down the opportunity because I don't think that your needs can be met.
Right.
Shout out to John Dietz.
Yeah.
I think I got that one verbatim.
That's a good one.
But I have told him that it's streamlining the conversation and sitting there confident in your center about the data that you're presenting and what you can actually perform on shaves 45 minutes off of my listing presentation. My follow-up is pretty quick after. I'd say I really appreciate AI for that because we've taken notes the whole time and we can go back to our transcripts and set up a timeline and action items and all of that. I mean, that's one of my favorite things is getting that response back to the seller with a recap as quickly as I can. But that aside, I just think that it's a waste of time and money when people are working twice as hard for, in some cases, half the income.
Yeah.
That, and like Alicia Michaud says, she's just sitting at that table, same as the seller, to figure out if she wants to invest in the deal.
Yeah.
Because we're making an investment of our time and our money
And our sanity.
and our energy and our sanity. And we've got to do that for people that we find to be open to
Worthwhile.
being helped.
Sure.
And if they're undermining us at the table and we feel like there's friction, then I made a recommendation yesterday for someone in 4-5 for 436 to 450. I mean, my 436 was a pretty specific number, but I got there very
Yeah.
carefully. And then I made my recommendation, and then I woke up to an email saying, like, this is where it needs to be. I said this is where it needs to be priced. You got to be below the market. The buyers have to perceive a value, but not by a lot because the list to sale ratio is like under 3%.
Okay.
Or sorry, 97%. So the difference in the list to sell price right now is that for 4-5 was like 2.67. Anyway, percent. She came back with 489 to 524. And I said, okay, well let's talk more about that in person and look at the data together. I didn't say take a hike.
Sure.
I just said, tell me, because I do think that this person is lovely and I do think that I can help them. And so we have to just look at all the same stuff together. And like a lot of times with pricing, I'll probably say that I agree with them about the value as long as it's within reason.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a really specific way to get there.
Yeah.
And if you don't get there efficiently, then the buyers are going to think that the house is worth less. And you're going to chase the market down rather than driving the price up. And that, I think, is what needs to be yelled from the mountaintops for every seller to hear.
What seems to be the process that sellers use to get to their number when it is not the same as yours?
I don't know.
They just say, I don't know.
I think, well, so I do, I mean.
Like, do you ever ask, like, how did you come up
They
with
send
that
me,
number?
they'll send me realtor.com links of active listings.
Okay. So it's active stuff.
Which we do more than ever need to consider the actives. And my sellers and I, if we're real close on nailing down the price that we're going to enter the MLS on or with or whatever.
Well, because you want to be below slightly, right?
The buyers have to perceive a value. It has to be priced, presented, and positioned perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
And that is not easy, but it's only hard if you make it hard.
Right.
I mean, it's
Do you ever get that I just feel that?
Sure. I mean, I think this one's a feeling. The one that I'm dealing with right now, and I love that 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 imaginary net outcome meets all of your goals and hopes and dreams.
Yeah.
I like to daydream too, but professionally,
I feel like I'm 6 foot. If I put a cowboy boot on, I definitely am. But yeah,
I have a
get it.
friend that was almost 7 foot tall, and she would tell everybody that she was 6'12".
No, yeah,
It just sounded better. But I don't know where I was necessarily going with that. There's fantasy world, and we can't in this market spend any money on someone who's living in fantasy world that you don't think that you can wrangle. But how I present it to the people that are willing to be flexible and that do trust me because I'm sitting there confident with data and being somewhat firm because I respect my time as much as I do theirs,
right.
then, a lot of times we can still have a seller that has a fantasy number and bring them back to a place where they remember why they're
Reality.
doing this in the first place.
Right.
It's residential real estate. It's emotional for a lot of people.
Yeah.
They're doing things for a lot of emotional reasons. So why are we doing this? What if the market's worse or better? Who knows? But right now things are a little odd.
Yeah.
So what if we did have a crystal ball and you knew you would make $30,000 less in 4 months? How does that make you feel? You're still here. You're not where you want to be. This really big, important reason. How does that make you feel? Because there's so much emotion. And if you can keep people as centered as you are
Yeah.
at the table and get them to where they feel calm and focused and really, truly engage with what's important and lock in on that, then they're going to follow your lead. And that sometimes is really scary too, because even
What
though
if
we're
you're
really,
wrong?
really good, the market, the value of the home is what the market will bear. And I tell all of my clients that, actually Daniel Foreman said this in a meeting one time and I use it, but the first offer is a seller putting their house on the market. The seller's offering a home
Right.
to the consumer. And the market response, if it's, regardless of how it's positioned, but the market response is feedback.
Yeah.
And then,
And the market doesn't lie.
and my favorite thing to remind people, especially the sellers, feedback is knowledge, knowledge is power. Don't lose momentum and don't drag your feet, because the one thing that will kill your chances of the highest and best result is pausing for too long because you think something better is going to come along, or even though it's really slow, the activity is going to increase because, it was spring break. So, but maybe it was just your price.
Right.
Maybe you aren't a
Usually
value.
that's what it
Maybe you
is.
aren't presenting as a value because they don't know how great your home is yet.
So I know this is easier said than done, but it's something that I always do because it's always fun and it's even more fun to look back on. So what are the market predictions for this year? I mean, here we are, end of March. I can't believe it. It's already like almost April. So we're done with first
So
quarter.
weird. Market predictions?
Yeah. So are we, we're going into what I think a lot of people were hoping. My market prediction was we as professionals are waiting for 27. I've been saying that forever. Even when you're like, don't say that.
I know. I can't. I'm tired of waiting.
But, you have a better pulse on the emotion of it. So when I always meet with agents, I feel like I have a crazy pulse on the numbers. And you would think that the data would dictate the outcome. But in residential real estate, unfortunately, that is not the case.
No.
It is more about how does the consumer feel, and then the data can, help or hurt. So I guess I'm asking you, first quarter is pretty much done. What are your thoughts on this market? Where do you think we're going to end up for this year?
I don't want to say where we're going to end up because it's too early in the year and the
Okay.
world is really
On fire?
a confusing
Yeah.
variable. But I will say that one of the conversations I'm having with people when we're looking at the data is that it's better than last year.
Okay.
I mean, in the markets that I'm looking in, just as of over the last couple of weeks on my active deals, the inventory the absorption rate is down. So we have fewer months of inventory. I think we were like 4 to 6 months in some areas last year, and I was so pleased to see when I was working on something in 78748 that it was 2.67 months of inventory as opposed to 4 or 5 or 6. And that the list to sell ratio was up, meaning that people are getting closer to the list price. And if you can show buyers and sellers those numbers and the year over year, it's like, I don't care what you saw on CNN or whatever, the Today Show or whatever news outlet. This is our hyper-local market, and this is in the neighborhood that you're looking at, and this is the data as it relates to the asset that you're considering.
Right.
Or the investment that you're considering, both. But
so it sounds like the consumer's more optimistic than they were.
They are, and I think they want to undermine the seller or lowball the seller less.
Okay.
Because we have the data, but also maybe that's because I'm saying no to people that would be those that would be lowballing a seller in a market where I can show you that the wiggle room's probably only 2% or 3%.
I wish everybody would, because when we go back to like things being super busy in the early like 2020, even that what I call onesie twosie agent was doing enough business that they were turning that guy or girl down. And now it's, so constricted that it's like, all right, well, yeah, maybe we'll run this guy for 1%. You're going to kick back 2% of my buy side commission, like just crazy. But I would agree with you. I came into this knowing the data and knowing that the data would not support some crazy kind of boom or anything along those lines. And I was pleasantly surprised to see that. I'm totally echoing what you're saying. The consumer seems to be more optimistic this year for no other reason than I think a lot of it is just I think the consumer recognizes that like there is no crash. There's not going to be some sort of basically anything that's going to shift the market dramatically in one way or another. And I think you have a lot of people who've been sitting on the fence waiting for something like that to happen. And because it hasn't happened in what I think is a long enough period of time, the consumer isn't going, okay, well, maybe we'll wait for rates. Like that, how's that strategy working for you? Or maybe we'll wait for the housing market to crash. It's like, how's that strategy working?
Well, your rent prices are going up.
Right. So the optimism of the buyer and seller seem to be higher than last year because, again, from a data statistic, if the data were to support the way the consumer would react, then I would tell you that like we're going to have the same year as 25 and 24, but it appears to be doing a little bit better because
it's different in each area. The micro markets are
that's true.
Critical.
I mean, that's always going to be
so here's a good tip probably in any market is, are people really interviewing? I know what I said we got to work on our buyer presentation or really develop it even further. It needs to evolve into a even more sophisticated offering. But do buyers really know how to interview their agent?
That's a great question.
We put the list out of questions they should be asking every once in a while. I should do it again. But and do sellers ask a question like, how do you handle the appraisal when they're interviewing the listing agent? No one ever asks me that, but I bring it up. Another question they never ask is, what's your educational background as it relates to residential real estate? There's just some really simple vetting questions that people should ask out in front that will save them time and probably, also mitigate risk, because just because you like the person doesn't mean that they're going to be the one that's going to have your back in a manner that's going to give you the best net outcome in the shortest amount of time.
Well, as someone outside looking in, I can tell you firsthand that, when sellers are selling, they are, I would say, at least 2 to 3 times more likely to interview multiple agents than they will on the buy side.
Yeah.
And, because one of the things that I've always done is if a buyer comes to me with an agent that I've never done business with, I'm immediately pulling that agent's production, and I am telling that buyer exactly who they are dealing with. And if I have it my way, if it's an agent that is not doing a ton of business and doesn't seem to be very open to, generating like a good experience, I am trying to push that client to another real estate agent every single time.
That's gonna not go over well with a lot of people.
It's just
And
the
I
reality.
appreciate the stark
It's
honesty.
the truth because if I pull, we had a deal just recently where this was a gentleman that was not a full-time agent. That's one of my biggest pet peeves. Like if I call you as a real estate agent, and you're like, "Hey, I'll call you when I get out of work." That's a red flag to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I have a buyer that obviously I want to generate a good experience for, and I have an agent that's telling me, "Hey, we'll call you when I get out of work."
Yeah.
I'm not saying like, "Hey, you need to drop this loser."
Yeah.
Right? But I'm definitely like, "Hey, I just want to make sure that you feel comfortable with who you're working with. Like if you ever want any and here's the irony of it all. I'm going to make this a separate clip because I know there's going to be agents that are going to be seething like, "Well, I'll never send you a piece of business ever." And it's like, "Don't." Because you're the same agent that's like, "Here's my 3 lenders. Go ahead and find out who's going to be the best deal. And you got to do what's right with you." And that shoe goes on both feet.
Yeah, that's
so
true.
The point I'm trying to make, though, is that you see the bad buy-side agent when you're the listing agent.
Mm-hmm.
I see the bad buy-side agent in the way that it translates to the buyer. And I would envision it's probably a lot uglier than you think.
I'm sure it is. I experienced that one I told you about that I'm totally traumatized by, but everyone just needs to rise to the occasion. And I think that I think we talked about this last time, but I really changed my tune as I matured in the Austin market from being kind of abrasive or maybe even a little short or a little more
direct.
But
see, but that's what I like about you.
But I think that I would, be quick to point out like the flaw in someone's argument rather than I frame the conversation differently now because now as long as the person isn't a total like psycho and
you're talking about
they
the
aren't,
agent on the other end of it. Yeah.
As long as they're not like just absolutely nuts, then there's probably a teachable moment happening. And then you'll find out if they're coachable or collaborative or not. And then that's where you're like, okay, well, this is a lost cause, or we can get through this together because they're open to collaborating, they're flexible, and they're teachable. And that I think that's an important shift that a lot of agents should have and probably have had, especially the tenured agents, a lot of them. And there's still there's spicy agents in any market, in any neighborhood. But I think just being a little less spicy and a little more quick to say, tell me more about that. But no one can handle or prepare themselves for the stupidity that I dealt with on that deal that I told you about. Yeah. Like that's just you can't see that level of crazy coming down the pipe.
Sure. Well, and to the point that I was making about agents and stuff like that, some of the best relationships I have are with agents that I have been paired with, for lack of a better term. Mm-hmm. So don't get it wrong. It's not, if you come to me on the buy side and I'm paired with you because I knew the buyer, they typically go better than they don't. But I definitely am going to make sure that if you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing as a buy-side agent, I'm going to call you out to your buyer.
Yeah, so be on your toes.
Yes.
Be on your best behavior.
Just do your job.
Yeah. Something that I didn't say earlier, but I was alluding to on the sell side, I did want to touch on because it's important. We're talking about the seller's perception of the market and the, that delta. We've sort of been an underlying theme here, but I won't go on and on about how I prepare my listings and how I think listings should be prepared because I think that's part of maybe a little bit of the panel topic. But
don't give all the secrets away.
But the sellers, it's like this, the example I'm using where, they think it's worth quite a bit more than what the data says and where I think it needs to be positioned for the best result.
Yeah.
I will often take those sellers and we will go and look at the active listings. And they will see ones that have been on the market for one day.
Yeah.
I mean, if we can get into the under contract one that went under contract in 2 or 3 or 4 days, under 10 days, then I want to go look at that one too. Like the sellers need to go out and look at the actives. And in, any case that
Say,
they
"This
can,
is
the
what
ones
we're
that are under
comparing your house
contract really
to."
quickly.
Yeah.
And I every time I offer to do that with my seller, they're shocked. They're like, "Oh my gosh, of course I want to do that."
Wow.
And it's so
I was curious. I was going to ask, are
helpful.
you getting pushback from that?
Well, if they say no, then I'll just say, okay, well, I'll add that to my our market presentation for our pricing recommendation, and it's just more notes. But you can't tell if the house smells on paper. That's just the best example.
No, I think
that
it's a great one.
Use for you just need to go see it in person. And if you've got an hour and a half and you're going to be right next to your house, we're not going further than a mile away. Why would you not take the time to take your seller to go actually see these houses and show them the one that's been on the market for 120 days,
Right.
and then show them the one that went under contract in under 14,
Yeah.
and then show them how many price reductions the 120-day house has. Because you walk in the 120-day house and it looks fine. It smells great.
Right.
I mean, they even have good staging, real furniture.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, okay, what's the problem?
Yeah.
It's one thing. And then I show them that they've reduced it by $2,000 and $5,000, 12 different times.
Is that
And they're still
sometimes
above
hard
market.
for the seller?
No, I think
I'm
it's really,
genuinely asking,
no,
'cause
I think
I've
it's,
never,
I think it's very enlightening. I think it's an incredibly important part of the process. But
I don't think enough listing agents are doing that.
no, they don't. They don't do that. My sellers love it. And if something comes on while we're on them, I mean, we'll still go look at property while they're actively on the market.
Do you think they're not doing it because they don't know to do it, or do you think they're not doing it because they're lazy, or both?
I think that they just don't know. I think the
Yeah.
listing agent's not saying like with this one where we've got a difference of opinion. She's hopefully willing to go look at these other houses, and then we'll talk about how that is going for them and the different scenarios. And now it's real time examples giving her the data and the intel that she needs, because she's seeing it for herself and processing it herself.
Right.
Instead of me saying, this is my interpretation of the data. You just met me, a week ago.
Right.
Because in this case, it's a homes.com lead.
Okay.
But I get it. She might think that I'm in there telling her that the house is worth less because I want to sell it really quickly.
Right.
There's a big difference in selling it quickly. I mean, if a house sells quickly right now, it's because in most cases it was priced right, and that's what the market will bear.
Mm-hmm.
And then that seller, thank goodness.
We had one of our clients that got under contract at the price he wanted, and everything went smooth. And when it was all said and done, he said, "This was too easy. I'm afraid I overpaid."
Well, what did the appraiser say?
The appraiser said that he purchased that property for $20,000 under value.
Did he complete the deal?
No.
You get some real,
Isn't that crazy?
yeah.
But
That's
again,
hard.
You have to remember that I am actively involved with, I think right now I've got 65 approvals, right?
Oh my
So
gosh.
I'm actively involved in dealing with 60 clients where, and again, all different facets in terms of agents, guys, girls, new, old, and it's interesting. It isn't, I will say personally, it is an interesting time in some of the things that I am seeing, and that is why this panel is not only important to the agents that I've talked to, it is super important to me selfishly, because if agents can get things a little more, I feel bad about the word I'm using. I'm trying to think of something else, and maybe you can help me, but if agents can get clients under control a little better, I think this market will be under control a little better, which will make my life so much better in terms of...
I think under control, if instead of saying under control, you should just say confident.
Okay.
Because the buyers aren't, if he thinks he overpaid for the
Sure.
house, then he isn't
Yes.
confident.
Yeah.
He's
so
not
if-
confident in the deal. He's not confident in his representatives. He needs to feel like from go that he is well educated. He is, I mean, and the conversation with the buyer always is get your full file, be approved,
Yeah.
because it's going to take you missing out on the one because you weren't ready
To really.
for you
Yeah.
to probably turn around and blame it on us.
Yeah.
So just get the full file, and then now you've got your foundation beneath you. We set expectations based on real-time market data and feedback. And oh, by the way, we're talking to each other as real estate agents. I mean, that inside track from our networking is the most valuable feedback that you can get.
Amen. I've been saying that forever.
And it's where you get your off-market listings.
Right.
So interview your agent.
Yeah. Well, and one thing I think a lot about too is that, so you know what I do, or a few things that I do, and from a sales standpoint, right, or a service standpoint, whatever you want to call it, there are so many little things that I think are important in my business, for example, and I know in real estate this can be mirrored. So, for example, you showing your sellers other properties, physically taking them into the property and saying, hey, here's what this one's currently listed at, here's what they started it at, this is in your neighborhood, whatever have you, and explaining all of that. The fact that a lot of agents aren't doing that, and the question that I asked is, do they not know to do it, or are they lazy? What I always think,
Maybe they all are, and I'm just making this gross assumption, but the sellers are always very surprised. Sorry to interrupt. But
No.
I'm like, I'd hate for everyone to be like, well, that's just part of our process. Who knows?
Well, no, I personally don't know a ton of, agents on the list side that are doing that. But the point I'm trying to make is, like, I've trained a lot of loan officers, right? And I have a ton of different things that I do to make sure that the client is having a good experience, making sure that we don't run into major issues. I mean, one of them, for example, I tell buyers agents, CC me on every single offer. Let me reach out to the listing agent, express the strength of the approval, let them know who they're dealing with, and basically coach them up, because I have a theory that the true person who's making the presentation to the actual sellers is the listing agent. And so if that listing agent comes in with his head hung low, like, oh, we don't get what we want, that's not a good look, and we don't get to talk to the sellers.
Mm-hmm.
But the point I'm trying to make is that I think a lot of times salespeople will take little things, like what we talked about. Like I said, reaching out to the listing agent. Is me reaching out to the listing agent going to be the game changer that is going to get that deal under contract at the offer that we're making? No, probably not. It's one tiny little facet.
Very important from the heavy listing agent side. It's mission critical, and if they don't include the introduction, and it says on our offer guide that if I don't have a cell phone number for the loan officer,
Right.
then we have a
problem.
I need a direct line to a person that answers the phone during hours where we are often transacting with our buyer who has a 9-to-5 job.
Right.
It is 1,000% a requirement.
Well, thank you
that
for
I have.
your thank you for the what's the word?
The validation.
Yes, thank you for validating.
One other important thing for the agent to acknowledge about what you're saying is that I talked about saving 45 minutes during my listing presentation, because you could sit at someone's table for 3 hours.
Oh, I bet.
Especially if y'all are getting along. I mean, you just cannot. That's bad for business.
Sure.
But you just made some friends, and then they hire the other agent because you got on a sidetrack about,
What school Johnny's going
yeah,
to.
the Yankees spring schedule.
Right.
And so if instead of bogging down my conversation with the listing agent, or even my narrative in the email that I'm sending the offer with in terms, if I just say, they're working with this person, they've got a full file, we've got an incredibly confident buyer, and they're ready to move on something, and the likelihood of them getting to the closing table, in my opinion, is as high as it gets.
Right.
So that's all I need to say, if that is in fact my level of confidence.
Sure.
And then you go have the conversation about the ins and outs and the specifics, and that just saved me another 5 minutes, maybe 10.
Point.
So, I mean, I'm looking for every opportunity to streamline things, because people can get really, really confused.
Sure.
Especially when the data is sort of confusing or conflicting. And so that's just, you have to have that alignment with the with the LO, because if you don't and they are throwing spaghetti at the wall,
Yeah. Well, and again, to bring it home, the analogy that I was using is when we asked why don't all agents do this or that, I think a lot of it, as I trained salespeople, when we would write offers and not get it under contract, for example, I would always ask the LO. I would say, "Hey, did you do this? Did you do this? Did you do this? Did you do this?" And there's like 10 things, all of which one of those 10 things is never going to like make a huge difference. But all 10 of those things completed can make a tremendous difference. And
I'll look
so
something up.
and so I'm like totally loving and thinking about when, you're talking about taking sellers to other homes that are their competition and asking myself, why aren't agents doing that? I'm almost thinking it's because in their minds, they're like, this won't make a difference. But if they were to do that along with all the other things, it could make a huge difference. And I think that's the why. I mean, I'm just trying to.
No, I that's why I had to grab my phone. I got excited about that. So, get my readers on. Okay, so we had a deal fall out because the offer letter, the employment offer letter was rescinded after the financing period had passed. We were days away from closing, like 4 or 5 days away from closing.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, oh my God, that's my fault. And the reason I thought it was my fault is because even though I asked all these questions, I didn't say, what's the likelihood? How far out are you from actually, being secure in this position with tenure?
Right.
Are you tenured? I was just under the impression they were employed. I didn't even know. And so that was a huge wake-up call, and it adds to these questions. And so our team has I created something for all of the agents in the organization, and I've got a list of these are the vetting questions, and probably there's more that could go in here, but there's 14 questions that as a listing agent, when I call you, I'm asking you.
Okay. I would love that.
And
I typically try to contact a listing agent before they contact me. It's like one of my
then I'm gonna whip out my list on that call.
It's one of my like goofy
Be
things.
like, how much
that I'm,
time
like,
do you
real
have?
competitive. Like if the listing agent calls me, I'm like, shit.
Yeah, well, and I like I said, I think that's great, and my buyers enjoy that about you too. People don't realize that you shouldn't just be calling and asking if they're qualified. Do they have a full file? Is it W-2?
No, there's a lot.
Is it 1090? Like I bet most people think that there's like 5 or 6 questions. At a minimum, there's 14, because those are the ones that I thought of when I was making the list after I realized I forgot one very important question that I didn't even think to ask on an otherwise super
I've never
vanilla
seen an
file.
offer letter get rescinded. That's wild.
It was really sad.
That is sad.
She was so sad, and the sellers kept the earnest money because that's what the contract says.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, if you're gonna take your house off the market for that long, that's a bummer.
We got it under contract again really quick because it was a great price point. But we did extend to give her a chance to get another job because my sellers were really sweet, and we thought it was the right thing to do. It just didn't
You know what I
come
do want
together.
to say about that situation? This is something that is a huge pet peeve of mine. So I'll just say me. I think all lenders think this way, but I'll just speak for myself. I am always trying to close the transaction as quick as humanly possible, not just because I want to get paid. And in this market, because things aren't as competitive, I am really, really shocked at the amount of times that I'm getting like 45, 60. I actually just closed a transaction that we got under contract right after Thanksgiving, and we did not close this transaction until February 2nd so that they could push their payment out. So think about that. I mean, you've got November to December, December to January. So you're talking about a 75, almost a 90-day close, right? And I bring this up all the time because
Anything could go wrong.
I've had in the last, so let's start with COVID. I probably lost 3 or 4 deals due to people losing their job during COVID. And people will always say things to me like, well, if they would have lost their job, then, they're going to lose their job when they have this house. What people forget is that if you're and this is, I'm totally clipping this out. This is a public service announcement. I always ask clients when I'm doing my buyer's consultation, what is your biggest fear?
Yeah.
Do you know what a buyer's most, I would say 40% of them say is, my biggest fear is getting this house and something happening to where we can't make the payment, right? Like I'm going to lose my job or somebody's going to get injured and we're not going to be able to make this payment. Well, let me tell you something. The way that foreclosure laws work and the way that rental laws work, unless you live with your mommy and daddy and you're rent-free, you are paying somebody, whether it's a bank on your property or it is a landlord. So if your biggest fear is that you're going to lose your job and you're not going to be able to pay, I promise you, and I can prove this to you, I would rather lose my job 100 times over while owning a home than lose my job while renting an apartment or renting a house, because the landlord can kick me out of that place within 60 days of missing my first payment, where foreclosure proceedings in the state of Texas can take as little on a primary homesteaded residency, as little as maybe 10 to 12 months, as long as I've seen some of them take up to 3 years. So if you're going to lose your job and you know you have to get your shit together, unless you're going to be a total screw up and be like, well, I'm just, going to figure it out.
Yeah.
Most people that can afford homes aren't total screw ups. You're going to get back on your feet in 30 to 60 days, where you might be kicked out of that apartment, where in 30 to 60 days you can be working with your lender, you can be focusing on
Proactive about protecting your investment.
Yeah, and you can focus on your rights as a homeowner and not get the boot. So that's something that I think more people need to know, because I don't think that first-time home buyers specifically know that. Because when I get that objection, I'm thinking, well, if that's a fear of yours, like, you're totally fucking up as a renter. Like, big time.
That goes full circle to where we started, whereas you were talking about, I had it and I lost it. Of the affordability.
Yes.
So you go back to the conversation about what if things were to change?
Right. Well,
How
yes.
comfortable are you with this payment? Like my advice for some people, I'm like, don't escrow your taxes because they don't need to, or they want that lower monthly payment. And then, something goes wrong and you got a $12,000 bill. So obviously my tune has changed on that. But that 3, 5, and 7 year forecast, that they should be able to, we give every buyer where we think this is going to be at in 3, 5, and 7 years. Obviously 7 years is a long ways away.
We do our
but
best,
if we apply the most conservative appreciation, knowing that there are so many variables, here's your worst case scenario in our professional opinion number for 3, 5, and 7 years from now. Your taxes also, because you have this conversation with them about what the taxes might do, right?
I'm going to have one of those conversations when we, I always do.
So they need to make sure that they know what the worst case scenario is for their payment, and that they do have reserves. I mean, the financial counseling around, there's a lot of missing opportunities or missed opportunities to give them guidance the same way that, not the same guidance, because I'm not a CPA, I'm not an attorney, I'm not a wealth advisor.
Right.
I am a real estate consultant, and there is missed opportunity, I think, with a lot of people where they should be getting really, really clear and then recapping it in writing. Here's where we think this is going to be.
Yeah.
Are you comfortable with this payment? Nobody wants to be house poor. We live in way too cool of a city to be stuck at home all the time.
I agree. But yeah, I encourage every real estate agent that, pushing these closings, I'm not saying that we need to aggressively close them quickly, but kind of like your situation with the offer letter, like anything can happen. I lost a few deals during COVID because we pushed them out, and then all of a sudden people were furloughed. Surprisingly, I have lost 3 transactions in the last 5 years due to death. We had a client that almost died. I have to be very careful how I tell this story, but it's just so crazy. I pushed to close this deal, and everyone was like, no, the buyers are out of town, and they were purchasing it as like a vacation home. The buyers are out of town, and the seller doesn't. I'm like, okay. And one of the parties attempted suicide.
Oh my gosh.
Now, they were unsuccessful in their suicide, and the deal actually closed.
Oh my goodness.
But, like, how crazy is that?
That's so crazy.
And so and while everyone was like, we'll just,
No, just get it done.
Correct.
But also, people want to wait for the better rate too. And I don't think that
during a closing period from the time they're under contract?
yeah, like if they're sometimes hesitant to lock, right? And you're
Oh.
like, well,
You know what I find that it typically is? It's two things. The main reason is because you've got somebody who's in a lease who's trying to time it to where they don't have to make two payments at the same time. And then what we typically see is agents, real estate agents, are encouraging clients to close in the beginning of the month because they're like, well, we can get 60 days before you have to make your first payment. But then all we
I
are
wish
doing,
people would stop saying that.
yeah, it's terrible.
Because you're paying it up front.
Correct. All we do is you do get a true 30 days without a payment. That's reality.
But it's not part of your prepaids?
Well, so the way that it works is that when we close in that month, you're going to pay your prepaids the full 30 days. But it's not a payment off. We call it deferment.
Right.
So you are able to defer your first payment where there's no prepaid and no payment due for 30 days. That's real.
But you've still got how many months of prepaid on your settlement and cash to close?
Well, so you'll have 30 days. It's days. So if we close, it's almost April 1st, right? I have tons of clients that are going to close the first week of April because they don't want to make their first payment due until June. And the agents have used that as a sales tool to say, hey, we're going to get you in this home and you're not going to have to make a payment until June. And people are like, oh my God, that's great. And then agents will ask me hey, we're going after seller concessions. What do you think our closing costs are going to be? And I typically tell everyone, listen, a great rule of thumb is, if you're purchasing for under $1 million, a great rule of thumb is to just assume that you're going to pay at least 2% in closing costs all in. And what I run into from time to time is I forget to ask the real estate agent,
who's paying for their commission?
No. When will you be closing? Because if you're going to be closing at the very beginning of the month, then I also have to bake in a full 30 days worth of per diem interest, which on a $500,000 loan can be like $3,000. So then all of a sudden, if it's like, oh, we have $10,000 in closing costs, you told us it'd be 2%? Why is it 13? It's like, well, it's 10 plus 3 because you have this extra free month that your agent sold you on.
Right.
And so, yes, you're not making a payment until June, but you're bringing in extra $3,000 to do it.
Yeah, I haven't said that probably in years. Just close when the time is right for your client and do it swiftly so nothing goes amiss. And really, that should be full stop.
I think so. I mean, we live in, I'm at an age where I ask myself if I just wasn't paying attention or if it's just me getting old. But we live in an age where I feel like everybody is looking for some sort of fucking hack. And, with TikTok and everything, the amount of questions that I get on a way to especially when you're dealing with a primary residency, this is a regulated industry. There's a reason why there's 900 pieces of paper that you're signing, and it's because they want to make sure that nobody is duping anybody. And so the opposite end of that coin is they're also making sure that you aren't duping anybody. So there's no secret sauce to what if is it more advantageous if we close on this or close on that? And it's oh, for Christ's sakes. I mean, that's one of many things I could talk about where people are asking me, what's the hack? And the last one I'll leave with that has just aged so freaking well. How's everybody doing on that date with the rate?
I was just going to say, I think that we should make for another time a list of all the things that people need to stop saying, that agents need to put back in their mouth and never let out ever again. Yeah. And I do have a little message for the renter scenario you just talked about. Because, like we said, the market's more rational than people are led to believe by the media. Sellers are willing to pay closing costs, even to cover the buyer agency, which that's a whole nother. That being itemized I think it's great. I've settled into it beautifully, and my sellers love it too. They feel more in control. That aside, sellers are willing to pay closing costs. Buyers, depending on their scenario, are able to get a certain amount. We always call our lender and make sure we're not over asking. But don't not go under contract on a home because you've got 3 or 4 months left on your lease.
Right.
How much does that cost?
Yeah, let's see what we can mitigate it with.
Yeah.
agree.
Don't why would you? And also, it's going to take 30 days to close, and you might not find something for 30 days. So if you think you're sitting pretty in your lease and you're ready to start looking 3 or 4 weeks before your lease is up, you're going to be more stressed out because you're going to be asking for an extension, and maybe the landlord's going to want more money for that. So start at least 90 days out and not later. And keep in mind that cost and make sure that you're really clear with your agent about it and your lender, and just, fill out all those blanks in paragraph 12.
That is sound advice. Well,
Full of it.
Michelle, always a pleasure.
Thank you.
I feel like we could go a whole nother hour. I'm looking over at the ticker here. I think we're at like an hour and a half.
Yeah, and I have a tarot reading at 3.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I can come back from that and
Oh my
tell you
God.
what the market's going to do.
I did that one time.
It's an hour long. I'm like
you
so
ever done it?
excited. Oh, all the time. And I also
Okay.
use my tarot deck with ChatGPT when I'm really,
I did
really
it one
in
time and
need.
I'll never do it again. I
didn't
wasn't
get
told
the-
anything I wanted to hear.
Well, I'll let you know. I'll give you a thumbs up or thumbs down after my hour long professional reading.